Hi, my name's Jake. I work for Region Security Guardian, and today we're going to be taking a look at the security at the Cecil Hotel. It's an infamous hotel for the dark backstory that it has to it, and Netflix recently released a documentary, I think around February time, talking about the Elisa Lam case, the Vanishing at Cecil Hotel. We sort of took a look at this. We wanted to analyse it from a security perspective, looking into perhaps some of the reasons why it wasn't as secure. It has kind of the gritty, dark backstory that it does. Now, the one thing to know about the Cecil Hotel is it is very low budget. It's something that probably didn't have the most up-to-date security systems in place, especially not what was needed. I mean, that's, part of the reason why it became as famed as it did for, various different serial killers, murderers, that kind of thing coming in and out. So the first thing we do, as we sort of always do with these kinds of things, is we run a risk assessment on the hotel itself. Obviously, we don't have access to the hotel itself at the moment. It is currently shut down. There are plans, I believe, for renovations in 2021. But I found a couple of pictures online and just what we could look at inside sort of the main entrance, different things like that. And we're going to try and break down for you today what we would do from our perspective. So in the risk assessment, the main key to it is to identify any potential hazards. So this is any hazards to sort of staff, any hazards to customers, clients, things like that. It could be anything. It could be exposed materials such as like wires, cracks in the floors, in the walls, even things like bars, any kind of glass, alcohol, that type of stuff. Basically identifying where any kind of problem areas might be and where we would need to focus our security efforts on. So that would form the basis of the operation. Once we've got our risk assessment down, we'd sort of look through the hotel, generally sort of give it a once over and meet up with the hotel manager and kind of discuss what we would recommend in terms of how many guards, what kind of shifts they need, whether we're going to operate CCTV systems, that type of stuff. Speaking of CCTV, once we've done the risk assessment, that would be the next sort of step that we'd go to. We'd analyse what they have in place at the moment, look into any kind of areas where the CCTV actually is, and more importantly, where it isn't. So a lot of hotels, obviously, they have CCTV all over the place. They try to keep as much of the area possible covered, but in this instance, there's definitely going to be blind spots, and we want to make sure that the CCTV systems that are in place are covering the sort of high value areas. Now, these are going to be places where people are prominently. These are going to be places like the bar, places like the reception. There aren't really going to be that many people sort of, dashing in and out of the hallways and stuff like that, so that might be a little bit more of a guard patrol type of system. But we want to make sure that everywhere that is going to be suited for people is going to be covered by either a guard or a CCTV system. So sort of taking a look at the first picture here, we've got, it's just the main entrance, sort of a shot down. You can see the reception towards the end there. You can see it's a pretty wide open, fairly standard hotel sort of entrance here. Nothing really especially jumps out. Again, we need to go in physically and sort of have a look around to get a really good assessment of the place. But just from looking at this image here, at least in the daytime, we'd sort of recommend having perhaps 2 guards around this area. One on the door to check people in, check people out, have a bit of a ledger of different people who have come in, have come out, names especially of some of the residents and stuff like that, to make sure that there aren't any sort of unsavoury characters coming in. And the other one would just be generally sort of patrolling around. They'd have checkpoint system, kind of making sure that there isn't any antisocial behaviour, various different things like that. Now, this would change in the evening, especially for a hotel with a bar. It would change to perhaps about 2 guards on the door, sort of coming into the late evening. This is due, as I say, pretty much just due to the bar, the alcohol consumption, different things like that. We also want to make sure that the only people who are coming into the hotel after, booking hours are over and stuff like that are people who already have a room. So we want to make sure, there's suitable guards, suitable security systems in place which are able to sort of accommodate for that. Speaking of the bar, once that does open, we would definitely have a guard on that, making sure that, people are safe, people are okay, people are having a good time, various different things like that. It's just to ensure that everywhere is covered, basically, and there's security in kind of each of the different aspects. Once the bar's closed, it's nighttime, the entire hotel's closed down, we definitely still want a guard patrolling sort of the reception area and on the door, making sure, obviously, that any people who do come in after that, certain hotels do have requirements, you have to be back by this time, whatever, but we want to make sure that up until that sort of final hour, We have somebody able to check over the people who are coming in. We'd put in some extra guards on there. So sort of looking at the second image here, we've got what appears to be sort of a dining area above the reception. A little bit of a pain point, just because dining areas, again, it's an area featuring alcohol, it's an area where people are going to be, areas with people, areas with the public and customers and stuff in. Those are the areas that we really want to focus our security efforts on, especially as it's above the reception. You know, there's obviously an increased risk of people up there disturbing the people down in the reception, generally just being, you know, antisocial kind of people. So again, making sure there is a guard sort of being able to patrol that. We probably wouldn't have a separate guard for this. We'd have the one that is patrolling around the reception, going upstairs, as you can see, it's sort of around the same area, going upstairs, having that as part of the checkpoint, making sure that everything's okay there, and then making sure obviously we have one guard permanently on the CCTV, somebody who can get a really good surveillance of the hotel. Obviously, as hotels are very, very big buildings, they require a lot of square footage of coverage, and it's just not feasible, it's not possible with just one, maybe even two guards. So having someone permanently on CCTV with constant contact with the guards, they're going to have that kind of way of communication open, and they're going to be able to call in any kind of threats and stuff like that they see. There's a picture we've got of the hallways between like all the doors and stuff, and you can tell it's really, really tight. Now, a lot of hallways in hotels tend to be a lot wider. This, I mean, obviously is just for the general flow of traffic of people, but another thing from a security standpoint, this is a very, very dangerous situation to be in, especially when it comes to fire safety, especially when it comes to, you know, antisocial behavior, or perhaps if there's abuse going on in any given room and people need to escape and stuff like that. In the busy rush hours when people are going to be using these hotel hallways, having them as tight as they are is definitely a pain point, something we're going to want to keep an eye on. Check whether we've got CCTV down these hallways. If we don't, they're going to be something that we have to make sort of a special exception for our guard, perhaps even put a secondary guard just to monitor the hallways, walking around, sort of having a look, having an assessment of the general way that they are. That's going to be it in terms of our analysis of the Cecil Hotel security. Again, we can't really get a good look inside and actually give you a proper, comprehensive, end-to-end sort of security analysis of it. But just from these pictures, we definitely recommend a lot more guards, a lot more CCTV, various different things like that. Let us know what your thoughts are sort of down in the comments below. If you agree with us, if you disagree, if you do it any kind of differently. But yeah, with that being said, we'll see you in the next one.